From the incident that happened at a Spruill Avenue store here in North Charleston on Friday night to his thoughts on the 2-year anniversary of the tragedy at Mother Emanuel, Reverend Nelson B. Rivers III speaks exclusively to me for the special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. Reverend Rivers, it is so good to see you.
You too. Good to be here. Thank you. Finally we get together.
Indeed.
Yes, sir.
Well, let me begin with the obvious, and this is a headline from Live by News. It says this: civil rights groups speak out in case of 12-year-old kicked by North Charleston store clerk. As you know, community activists are calling for change after a 12-year-old boy was actually allegedly kicked by a clerk at a North Charleston store after he purchased some ball peanuts from them. And I'm wondering, when you think back to Friday to right now, what is the biggest thing that sticks out in your mind?
Well, I don't know as much about that because I've not been involved. I saw the Facebook posting on Sunday with Brother Shakima. And I have not heard from Elder Johnson. I have not talked to any of the civil rights organizations. I have to take them at their word that they've done the investigation. They've talked to the witnesses and talked to the families. When we traditionally get involved, we do our investigation first to make sure that it's fact-based. And then we confront or approach the person who is being alleged to have done it. And if we agree that it was done, then we get a way for them to rectify, to make whole the person that was offended, to make changes if necessary. But I'm not aware that any of that has been done. I'm not saying it has not been done. I don't know what has been done. In fact, I only know about the case from the Facebook posting and now what you just said. And earlier, one of my colleagues with Nan, who works with me with the national office, shared with me that there was a press conference, but we didn't know about the press conference. And so I'm not aware if what is described factually and it happened, and then things ought to be done. But I can't tell you what they ought to be because we are in peril every time we speak without knowledge or act without facts. So before we do anything, we have to know what we're doing.
Obviously, there was another incident at the Andrews Market on Dorchester Road a couple of months ago. When you look at that incident and this alleged incident that just happened Friday night, what is the state of these convenience stores in your mind?
I'm not sure because I'm not, one of the things we have to be very careful about as people in general, black people in particular, we should not make any assumptions about a group based on the conducts of members of the group. One of the things that black people have been subject to since we've been here is folk using the conduct of an individual as the conduct of our entire group. I shouldn't have to defend the individual conduct of African Americans as the cultural conduct of all black people any more than any group or good people ought to do that. So before I can make an assumption that this is a cultural thing, a religious thing, or just an ethnic thing, I need to know more, and I don't know. What I did work with Elder Johnson and the local NAACP on was to try to convene the owners of these various businesses so they could hear directly from their customers, basically, how they feel. Now, whether that has been done yet, I'm not sure. But I do know that there were sporadic protests at the location of the Andrews Market. I also do know that there are African American owned businesses near the Andrews Market that a pretty simple economic sanctions thing would have been to turn the business from Andrews Market to a black owned business, which I'm sure could use the business. But I'm not sure where we stand on that because we haven't had a chance to reconnect about what happened after the outreach to the business community. All I say is what I said already, that I am very cautious about attaching any behavior to a group of people that comes out of the behavior of a part of that group. That's known as the kind of oppression, racism, stereotyping, and denigration that I fought all my life against, and I'm not going to be the one to do to other people what I don't want done to my people.
You talk about your life as a civil rights activist. When you look back at that to right now, what is the biggest thing that sticks in your mind?
Is that in civil rights it always gets down to effectiveness. What happened? What was done? What was the status of the movement and our community when I started? And what is it now? I got started as a 24-year-old. I really got started as an 18-year-old when I read Malcolm X's, 17, in my freshman year in college. I read his autobiography. That literally changed my life. And then hearing Dr. King on audio tape do the Drum Major Instinct message when I was around 24, and decided that this movement was what I was going to give my life over to. Didn't know how it was going to work out when I got started. And really it was Roy Wilkins who did a tremendous speech that I was not present. But what I had said to my young colleagues and brothers and friends, man, I'm sick of all of this. And NAACP is Uncle Tom, old organization, stuck in the old ways. We need a radical change. We need to take over. And I heard Arthur Pinckney, who used to work for WPAL, right. Not the Arthur Pinckney from the NAACP, my friend, but this was another Arthur. And he called for a meeting at Macedonia AME Church, December of 1975. I went to that meeting. I went really with the intent of starting either an East Side branch of the NAACP or to start a new organization, because at that time I didn't think NAACP was very effective. Of course, I didn't understand what effective meant. I just had my own youthful opinions. Prior to going to the meeting, I heard Roy Wilkins say something I never forgot. He said, why is it young people always want to reinvent the wheel, always want to start something new? Is it that you're interested in something new, or are you trying to get something done? A profound question. So he said, if you want to do something about economic advancement of black people, NAACP has an economic advancement committee. I didn't know that. He said, if you want to do something about police brutality, NAACP has a legal redress committee that investigates police misconduct. I didn't know that. He said, if you want to do something about the education of black children in Charleston, which I did, being a graduate of Burke High School, that the NAACP has an education committee. I didn't know that. I began to feel pretty dumb as I went through his litany, because I realized that I was making a lot of criticism and comments about stuff of which I didn't know much about. Then finally, when we got involved, we tried to take over the North Charleston branch in 1976. And I came to a meeting in North Charleston, right across at the Felix Pinckney Center. Right. And I remember in that meeting, Ike Williams, a brother and a friend later on, but I didn't know him at the time. He was the brother of Bessie Simmons, a good friend of mine. And we were part of a young activist group getting involved at the time in our 20s. And I went to the meeting and I watched the election, and all the young people were defeated. And I got disgusted and frustrated, thought the old folk were once again, ripping off the young people, not giving us a chance to serve. But I noticed that Ike Williams kept reading a book on the table. And finally, when everything was over, I asked Ike, I said, what are you reading? He said, I'm reading the Constitution and bylaws of branches of the NAACP. I said, Constitution and bylaws? He said, yeah. So I felt stupid, because I'm trying to play a game that had rules. And because I'm breaking the rules, I'm mad at them, as opposed to being able to understand, if you want to play this game, you ought to know how to play it. If you don't know how to play it, that's on you. If you want to make this a better organization or start your own, any organization you start has to be organized. One of the great challenges I think we have, and a duty I have as one of the senior statesmen, if for lack of a better term, someone who really has learned how to do civil rights down through the years, one of the challenges we have is organization. Organization is hard. I shared this with my brother and beloved brother, Muad'Dim, many times, and he agrees that Black Lives matters, and all organizations like it face the same challenges that the legacy, which is an offensive term, because legacy means that it's over, but it's not. So that organizations who've been here a while, like the NAACP, National Action Network, they're organized. Reverend Sharpton talks often about one of the things that young people don't understand, because they don't have any frame of reference for this, is that you can talk about what's going to happen, you can say going to happen, but I remember Arsenio Hall said years ago in one of his TV shows that one of black folks' best friends is Amo. I said, what is Amo? I'm going to do this. I'm going to whip your butt. I'm going to step you down. I'm going to step to you. Well, Amo don't mean jack if you can't deliver. If you cannot effectively deliver on your challenge, your threat, so you shouldn't threaten people. Because I've learned the hard way in my 42 years now of this movement. I learned this in Sumter, South Carolina in 1984, that there are two kinds of power, implied power and applied power. Implied power is your friend, because that is power that's done by inference and threat. I might do this. I might be able to generate enough people to shut your business down. I might be able to get enough people to march to upset your town. Applied power is different. What I learned is that the oppressor, the folk we're up against, they really were good at making you show what you got. And if you don't have what you say you have, it won't take long to find out you're just talking loud and saying nothing. So before you threaten anybody, you better have what you say you got. because you're not going to frighten folk who got money, got power with your talking. Talking doesn't scare them. Don't mean jack to them. I learned that the hard way. I used to do a lot of talking. But I found out that if you want to do it, you got to back up what you say. So we learned in the movement is that if we say it, we know it. If we know it, we say it. But we don't say stuff we don't know. And we don't know, and we don't get into making claims that we can't back up because it's an integrity and credibility issue. In my 42 years now, what I've been able to build over time, and it wasn't easy and it's not always there, is the integrity of, if I make this claim, it better be true. If I make a step based on my investigation, I better know what I'm talking about. So I can't afford to lambaste you just for the theater of it. That's behind me. I did that. I did that when I couldn't back it up. I learned that boycotts are very effective, but they're the nuclear weapon of economic advancement of our people. Because once you use it, it better work. Or you'll never get a chance to use it again on the same group of people. When in fact, it makes you less effective the next time, and even more so the next time. So whenever you call for a boycott, you better make it work. All you're doing is crying wolf if you don't. Because the next time it happens, the folk won't even pick up the phone. They won't even call you back. Because why? You threaten, nothing happened. So we investigate first, establish what we know. We go to the people, the organization or the company that made the violation or is at fault. We give them a chance to fix it. Because it's frankly cheaper for them to fix it than to litigate them. But if they don't fix it, then our next step is to continue to bring the pressure, the direct action, to create the tension and do this. This is long thought out strategy that's proven to be effective down through the years. This is what Dr. King did. This is what the NAACP did in Charleston when they integrated the beaches. This is what folk have done now to bring change through political organizations. When you know how to play, you must trust the process. You have to have the maturity and the integrity. And you can't get paid. One of the challenges I ran into years and years ago, I found that the people would turn on us when they started getting paid. If I'm in it to get paid, then I won't be in it long because it doesn't take much to shut me up. All I got to do is get paid. So when we are more interested in getting our own share, so I bless God that in my work with the association and in my work with NAN and my work with the church and with the Charleston Area Justice Ministry, it has never been about me getting paid. I don't need the money. And when they can't shut you up with money, and they can't shut you up with a threat about your life, then there's nothing else for them to do. Because the only two ways you can get it is either pay me or kill me. And if you kill me, it's game over anyway. And since you can't pay me enough to make me join your team, then money does not have any impact on what we're trying to do. So for me, it is taking the lessons I've learned in 4 decades of this work. I've seen colossal failure and unbelievable success, but there's always been based on making the process work. The flag, there's an article here on my shelf that I'll show you in 2000 when Senator Glenn McConnell got them, along with Senator Robert Ford, that I was vociferously opposed to, made a deal that took the flag. After we got them where we wanted them, we had a chance to take the flag off the state capitol premises completely. I met with the last Democratic governor, Jim Hodges, in his office, along with his African-American counsel, Senator McConnell, and some others. And I said to Jim Hodges, take the flag down, Jim. But Jim Hodges and I were in Leadership South Carolina together in 84 and 85. There were 55 people in the class, only 7 blacks, only 2 black males. Brother Burton from Franklin C. Fetter, and myself. And I said to Jim Hodges, fast forward in that year of 99, Jim, take the flag down. Jim said, I can't take it down because they'll just put it right back up. I said, let them put it up. What you'll always be known for is the governor who took it down. Now, Jim Hodges became governor because the governor before him, David Beasley, Republican, tried to take it down. And the white community basically retaliated against him and beat his butt. And he did not get reelected as governor, and then Jim Hodges got elected. Glenn McConnell told me standing in the hallway that Mr. Rivers, I was not called to the ministry at the time, he said, Mr. Rivers, as long as I'm in the Senate and as long as I'm around, that flag will never come down. I looked at him in his eye with all the sincerity I could muster. I said, Mr. McConnell, Senator McConnell, you don't know me. I'm from the land of never. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. And everything you ever told me I would never do and my people would never do, either we have done it or we'll do it. I don't know how long it's going to take, but we're going to take that flag down. The credibility from the issue for us is this. We knew that they were lying about the power and the pressure. We knew black folk and other folk were not coming to South Carolina because of that flag. We knew that. What we did not want to happen, did happen, was that we got a bad bargain. It should not have taken 9 lives and lives of my friends, Clemente Pinckney and Reverend DePayne Doctor, to take that flag down. But when those lives were taken by a terrorist act and the flag did come down, what caused it to finally come down, in addition to that killing, was the 15 years of pressure. And we never stopped. We never backed up. People told us quit. What integrity, what credibility would we have if, because it got hard, because people didn't want to march, people didn't want to show up, we quit? I used to tell folk when I was training them to do protests and demonstrations, I like to start protests in the wintertime. Because if you march when it's cold, you'll march when it's warm. If you start a protest in the summertime, and it's going to last, 'cause I always assume that our protest is going to take a long time. So if you're unprepared to see it to the end, if you're going to leave this one and go on to something else, don't start this one, because there's a negative consequences for the next one. And so when we boycotted Doshers,
Right.
shut them down, we didn't boycott them for a week. We didn't boycott them for a month. We shut them down because they refused to hire black folk. They refused to have black people in management positions. They refused to meet with us. 1 week of boycott, they met with us. They refused to sign our agreement that they would do it. We never stopped. Doshers changed as an entity. We weren't trying to shut them down. We were trying to get them to change how they did business. So I would say that if we find that the facts support, and if we met with the Middle Eastern business community, and I don't think that's one community. I think it's a mistake to assume it's one community. In fact, it is very dangerous to use their faith, their religion, or their tradition as a reason to go after them as a community, because we ought to be well aware that many of the Muslims that we're upset about, that we think are Muslim, are Africans first, then Muslim. That their color and their creed and where they're from is Mother Africa. The faith tradition they have adopted or they grew up with should not change the way we relate to them in terms of our judgment and our stereotype and our behavior toward them, because that is what we ask people not to do to us. I don't want you judging me as a black Christian or as a black man using my faith and my color first. You look at what I've done. If what I've done warrants that behavior, then you do that, but don't assume because I'm black or because I'm Christian, because I'm a pastor, because I'm a man who has a church in North Charleston, to make no assumptions about who I am when you don't know me. You deal with what I do. And so for us, I cannot lump them together.
Okay.
Will not lump them together. But I do know that if it happened, the one who did it, we should not only be confronting them, we should make them make it right. We aren't, when I grew up being young, born in a place called Bennett's Point, but I grew up in Charleston, went through all of my schooling here in Charleston. They used to make fun of us. When I got older, I realized that Charlestonians were famous for fighting around South Carolina. So one day a guy asked me, "So Rivers, which do you want to do? Do you rather fight or do you want to win?" That's what he mean. Don't you have to fight to win? He said, "Not all the time." He said, "But if you love fighting more than you love winning, you'll spend most of your time fighting." I said, "Okay, I got that." So what he really told me is, you have to decide what is worth fighting for, how you fight, and at all times, make sure that the integrity and the respect. I said to some of the young brothers with the language they use, I said this specifically to Muad'Dib, that the tradition of the civil rights movement is this. The currency of the movement is respect. You don't have to agree. You don't have to like my tactics. In fact, you don't have to like anything I do. But you got to respect what I do. Because without respect, we are not going to have a powerful movement, because the movement is built upon respect. So I cannot disrespect the folk who are doing the work. If they put in the time and do the work, I don't have to agree with you, but I must respect the fact that you've done the work. I'm going to respect the young brothers and sisters, because I fought a lot of battles about older people making judgments about me. I was confronted with hazing in the Charleston branch of NAACP when I was a young man. But I came to North Charleston, and not only did I not encounter any hazing, I encountered unbelievable support. Walter Jenkins, Saul White, Eli Brockington, Brother Harper, also Deacon Andrew Lambright, and there's a long list. Reverend Whipper, On LeCue. All those are men, and Sister Macmillan, and so many other folk who helped me, Mary Lee, and they would support me even when I was loud and wrong. And they would tell me, some of the stuff you're saying doesn't make sense, and some of the stuff you're saying, you just don't know better. But we like your courage, we like your respect, and we like your knowledge of the issues. So we're going to support you. They became my kitchen cabinet. And when I would mess up, they'd call me in that room, and they would deal with me. But they always told the folk on the outside. I remember a very prominent man who's now a judge, about to retire, white guy. And he came to us at Garrett High School. We were fighting to save Barnes Wilson. And we're trying to get them to make North Charleston campus, the Barnes Wilson, make North Charleston High School at Barnes Wilson. They wouldn't do it. And he came out and confronted me. Confronted Mr. Joe Stewart from Mount Moriah, late Deacon Joe Stewart, great friend and brother. And he went off saying, you're stirring the people up, and you are being hard on the white folk. And Joe Stewart said, well, yeah, he all that, but he ours, and you better not mess with him. And when it was over, we went in the room, and they told me the mistakes I had made that I didn't make again. But what really impressed me, and I've never forgotten it, obviously, is they supported me in front of that white pressure. And so whenever these folk come after Black Lives Matter, Muad'Dim, young brothers and sisters who I know hearts are in the right places trying to do the best they can, I don't join the chorus. I'm not going to denigrate my young brothers and sisters. I'm not going to play that game. If I got something to say to one of them, I talk to them directly. I don't do the media stuff. I have a commandment. Thou shalt not speak ill of another black person in leadership, unless you really mess up. But thou shalt not speak ill of another black person in leadership. That's my motto. That's what I do. I try hard. And I've had a lot of black folk in leadership positions I'm not going after because of that motto. Now, I can deal with your positions, I can deal with your issues, but I am not going to go after you personally. And because of that, then when people try to bring down a young person who may have made a mistake, who may have been exuberant, I can't join the chorus on that, because I did some of the same stuff. And a group of older women and men here in North Charleston, I was from downtown. They knew I was from what we call downtown. And they supported me as a young person becoming president of the NAACP. The branch grew. I went on to become a state director, a national director, a vice president nationally. All of that started right here in Liberty Hill, in North Charleston. And what I received could not be paid for. And so because of that, when folk are trying to go through, if I know something, I give you what I know. I have any reservations about teaching you what I know. You don't have to take any of it, or take what you can use from it. I have no reservations about giving people advice, giving people a phone call to tell them what I think. And there is no competition. I think that's one of the challenges the media tries to, because all they really want is a story. I understand that. I know the game was played, but we can't afford to let folk get us fighting about stuff that's not important. There is no contest in the civil rights movement between organizations. We need every organization. We have so much stuff to do. There's so much oppression, so much racism still alive and well in Charleston and North Charleston. We are foolish if we spend our time trying to undermine what we do. That's not what we ought to be doing. But at the same time, the movement brought us here. I am a part of the current group that's a steward of the movement. By that I mean, part of my job is to take care of the civil rights movement. So my first obligation, beyond personal, is to make sure that there's no harm done to this work that people have died for, and people have given their lives for. money and resources and time, then we cannot take that lightly, and I don't.
As you know, next week will be the 2nd year anniversary of the tragedy of Mother Emanuel.
Right.
As we sit here right now, write the headline. The Mother Emanuel tragedy 2 years later.
It's time to go from kumbaya to doing something about ya. That's the headline for me.
Okay.
No more kumbaya, let's do something about ya. Because our problem is we still got a lot of stuff to be done in Charleston. And I'm sick of them pimping and playing on the lives and blood of our brothers and sisters. Acting like they're so hurt and want to know what do we do. Stop doing what you're doing. This is no mystery. Racism is living. Think about this. Would anybody consider naming a building or a place in Charleston the Gestapo, or Auschwitz, or let's say we want the James concentration camp, or we want the James Auschwitz estates? Who would do that? Then why do you think black folk ought to be cool with plantations? Why would there be another plantation built? It's a pretty simple answer for me. This is born of painful experience. It's because I don't mean as much to you as you mean to you. By that I mean, you wouldn't celebrate Sherman's march to the sea in Charleston because you found it to be oppressive and terrorist. So why would you name something a plantation when to my community that is nothing but brutal terrorism? It's because, frankly, you don't think as much of my pain as you do of the gain you get from it. As long as that's the case, then we've not dealt with forthrightly what made Dylan Roof do it and what has been done about that kind of egregious, terrorist, murderous thinking in our time. And 2 years later, been a lot of talking, but hadn't been much work.
And you know, I was talking with a couple of city council members just recently, Charleston city council members, and they're basically saying, hey, we love social justice, but when it comes to the Charleston Area Justice Ministry, we feel like they're questionable. You say?
Well, you must be white council members, because we just met with 5 of the black ones last week before last. Right. All 5 came to speak at Cajun. 4 of them were very praiseworthy in what they had to say. They said they know better now, and it takes a while in Charleston to get used to folk who don't bend, who don't bow, who don't laugh when ain't nothing funny, who don't scratch when there's nothing itching. It takes a while because a lot of shuffling goes on around here, and when people are in power, believe they're your friend, and they want to use their friendship to keep on doing what's not right. They're not used to a lot of times in our community when folks look in the eye and say, no, I don't care how nice a guy you are. If what you're doing is wrong, I'm here to bring it to you. And either you can like it or not, that's not my problem. I ain't running to be the most lovable Negro in Charleston. In fact, I'm not your Negro. So whether you like it or not doesn't mean much to me. The only question is, do you change the oppression, the discrimination, the racism, and the violation of the rights of my people? If you don't do that, I don't care if you're the mayor, I don't care if you are Santa Claus incarnate. That has nothing to do with me standing up to you. And if you take it personal, that's your problem. It's not mine.
Reverend Nelson B. Rivers III, thank you so much for this interview. I really appreciate this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been a while. Take care. Keep on doing what you're doing.
Oh, I definitely will.